In this video, I'm going to make Zephyr nuke with her face.
I'm not giving.
What's good, folks? It's WARFRAME here with a WARFRAME video, coming at you with a face nuke Zephyr. And I know it sounds very stupid, but bear with me, as Zephyr is known for some insane synergies with her fourth ability to spread and scale damage to nuke enemies with weapons and elements. But what about her first ability, which usually gets replaced in the process of performing these synergies? Well, I was reading through some funny comments on my recent tier list video, and there were a couple of people who suggested nuking with her first ability. And to be honest, I completely forgot the first ability Augment existed. It's just like people only remember so much, right? In this showcase, I am using her first ability, Tailwind, as a damaging ability, along with its augment, Target Fixation. Let me explain how Tailwind works first. Zephyr's passive makes you weightless and floaty, and in doing so grants you 150% additive crit chance to all your weapons while mid-air. All you have to do is have your feet not touch the floor, and it counts as mid-air. Tailwind allows you to hold that floatiness for longer. By holding down the ability, you're now hovering, but also flings you at the direction your camera's facing, essentially flying for a short distance. And when you fly through things, you're able to damage enemies on collision, and this collision damage scales with power, strength, and the height. So if you're really high and dive into enemies down below, you're going to be doing more damage. But this damage is not that great. That's why we introduce the Augment, Target Fixation. This Augment allows you to stack damage by hitting enemies with your Tailwind. More enemies hit equals more damage stacks, and it can scale indefinitely until it resets. This damage can have you nuke steel path with ease, granted you hit more than one enemy. The damage stacking is not affected by power strength nor its damage, only by number of enemies hit. If you're grounded for more than 2 seconds, the damage stacks instantly disappear with no decay whatsoever. All gone, like it never existed. Hitting enemies with any variation of Tailwind will keep up the stacks, meaning if you're midair, the stacks will never disappear and will keep on stacking if you can keep on hitting enemies. That's the only way to maintain the buff. But unfortunately, this is near impossible, as you can only do this as long as you have the best RNG and not mess up at all. Because things that can hinder you are enemy spawns, which can lead to life support degrading, and you know what you gotta do after that. Energy, pretty much being human and messing up because you got too comfy with the floor. And tile sets can be your biggest foes in this. I've gone long without touching the ground, building up hundreds of millions of damage in stacks before I cucked myself and lost them all. But the stacks build up is pretty quick if you group up enemies and smash into them. Killing acolytes is quite RNG. Either you get decent stacks and hit them just right, or struggle tickling them, since they also have damage attenuation. Either kill them quick or struggle, or just, use a weapon. There are 2 versions of this build. One of them is more consistent with better flexibility and consistently hit hundreds of millions quite comfortably. And the other is for damage flexing. Basically, trying to push for billions of damage because, why not? The first build can be used without a Helminth ability, or you can replace the second ability with Pull from Mag. Up to you. Pull offers a better crowd control, costs less energy, and has better range. And you don't accidentally mess up by pushing enemies away if you hold cast your second ability. And the second Helminth is, of course, Roar. It's basically a universal damage multiplier, meaning it works for weapons and abilities, effectively doubling your damage. But the downside is you have to pay attention to more than one thing, making sure you don't touch the ground longer than 2 seconds and maintaining your Roar buff. So when you cast it, you gotta make sure you're in the air and don't touch the ground. For the Archon Shards, I have 1 red shard. for the 10% power strength. This is for min-maxing purposes, and you'll see why when we get to the build. Starting off with the first build, the comfort pick, the one I enjoyed the most and would recommend anyone to do this a lot more than the second one. In the aura, I have brief respite for the energy to shield conversion. This is used to replenish my shields so I get another instance of a max shield gate, which is 1.3 seconds. Pair this up with the auger mods on my secondary and a decaying dragon key to reduce your max shields so you have less to regenerate with the mods. However, you can replace the aura with enemy radar for more consistency to see all the enemies on the minimap, and use the 1 auger mod on your frame and 2 on the secondary, which will give you a similar result, because on the build I do have base efficiency, and your third ability will defend you from most attacks. But there are times when it's down or splash damage from Eximus can actually get you. Range at 265% with stretch, auger reach, and overextended. Just know, with overextended you will lose power strength, and this is why I'm counteracting that with transient fortitude. With transient alone, I will get 95% power strength, and that 1 Archon Shard that I showed earlier gives me that additional 10%. The main thing is that you want to be at base power strength, as the scaling is better from then on. I did try it with negative power strength, and the damage buildup is a lot worse, and even more punishing when you lose your stacks. Continuity for the duration, especially countering the negative effects on transient fortitude. Prime flow for the large energy pool, because it's an ability build. Rolling guard for the 3 seconds of invulnerability and status cleansing. And lastly, the Augment target fixation for the crazy damage. And in the Arcanes, I have Energize for the energy regen. This is going to be needed. However, if you don't have Arcane Energize, you can use the yellow Archon Shards with the energy pickup effectiveness and install 4 of them. And this will be pretty much like having Arcane Energize. And lastly, Molt Augmented for additional damage with your abilities. You can, however, use Arcane Agility for that parkour velocity, but it's quite inconsistent as your third ability prevents most damage. But there is another way to do that, using a utility weapon. We'll get to that. Alright, now that we've seen the consistent build, let's move on to the damage flexing build, which uses Roar on the 4th ability. The only things I replaced in the modding section is Auger Reach in favor of more power strength with Umbral Intensify. Pair that up with Molt Augmented at max stacks, you will have 209% power strength, and Roar multiplies your outgoing damage. Just make sure you have that 1 red Archon Shard. For your secondary, that uses 2 Auger mods to complement the build, especially if you don't want to run brief respite. It's just a generic Epitaph primer with Auger Pact and Auger Seeker. That's it. And for additional utility on the build, you can use Praetos, the Incarnate Tomfas, with the parkour velocity increase or the double jump increase as one of your bonus passives. Either one can be useful to maintain your height off the ground. This is a more consistent way of giving you that parkour velocity. And your other weapons and companions can be whatever you want. This is an ability nuke build that shreds Steel Path and sometimes Acolytes. So, if you want something for Acolytes, just grab any big damage weapon as your primary. Alright folks, that has been it from this video. If you've enjoyed it and found it informative, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more Warframe content, streams, and so much more. Do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace.